That's where we go. Steve Karsay, early 50s, buddy. He can
Hmm.
he can do
Yeah, but
it.
Hey,
the body is an amazing thing because I had Tommy John too in 1995. Obviously, I was a little bit younger than 35 when I had the surgery. Um, I was still in my mid 20s, early to mid 20s, and it was the same thing. I was 92, 94 before the surgery as a starter. And then when I came back and I ended up getting moved into the bullpen and rehabilitating my arm, and it took a lot longer than what it does these days because they have the formula kind of set out for that surgery now within a 12-month span. But it took me 18 to 20 months to get back. And when I came back and went to spring training in 99, and that was 4 years later as I built back up, I was throwing 97 to 99, touching 100. And uh, and Dr. James Andrews is the one who did my surgery as well. And we've always had discussions because I had multiple surgeries done by him, both elbow and shoulder, over the length of my career. And Sports Illustrated did a story on Kerry Wood, myself, and one other who had the surgery in that short period of time. Most of us came back throwing harder, and there's no explanation for it. There really isn't. It's the work you put in, the perseverance of rehab, and I think the overall ability to just be able to throw a baseball. And as you get older, you get a little bit stronger. And why velocity gets enhanced with that surgery? Yes, the ligament and the tendon that they replace, or the tendon that they replace the ligament with, is 3 times as strong. But it's still not everybody. Everybody comes out of that throwing harder, and
right.
there's a select few that do. And for whatever reason, if it's God's plan, if it's just the perseverance and the ability to strengthen your arm going through the rehab process, it just happens when it happens, and you're one of the chosen ones, or you're lucky to get that ability as a baseball player to throw hard and have a little bit more opportunity. And however long that lasts is how long that lasts, right? I mean,
Right.
yeah, I kind of came back down to earth after 3 or 4 years because it's a lot of stress on the arm, and it's a lot of wear and tear that takes place in any baseball player. So I can understand where Jim's coming from and what he's talking about. And I've had similarities in the velocity thing, but there's no rhyme or reason of why that happens. It just happens.
I'll tell you this, Steve, what bothers me the most about the whole situation, and you probably encountered this some too, our athletic trainers for Tampa were getting bombarded by high school parents going, where can I get my kid Tommy John surgery?
Mm-hmm.
Was he hurt? No, but I want to make him stronger. Absolutely never go into a body that doesn't have to be gone into. And that bothered me a lot, that people thought, hey, if I get my kid this at 17, he'll throw 100. Or he may throw 70.
Very
You
true.
don't know.
Jim, that's a very strong point that we've actually never brought up on the Chosen Journey, I don't believe. But talking about conspiracy theories, urban legends, there's so many times I've read that there was nothing wrong with a kid, so to speak, and they think that going to do this surgery is going to make them have a bionic arm all of a sudden at so many miles per hour. And I was always aghast by that, to go do unnecessary surgery, knowing that there's always a risk. But I'm sure it's out there, Jim. I'm sure
Yeah,
there are not credible doctors and there are parents that think they're doing the best for their children. But how many Tommy Johns have you heard that they never came back from that after?
a lot. I've heard a lot. And I've even got close friends who had Tommy John. I've had kids who were my friends back in minor league ball who threw 95. They drilled a person in spring training, and then they never touched 85 again because they were scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is so much math and statistics in baseball. It is ridiculous. And for a parent to sit there and go, I'm going to do preemptive surgery for my kid because this is his dream, absolutely wrong frame of mind to be in.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that a little bit today as I coach 12-year-olds and I coach my son. And you come across parents who think their boy is going to get drafted in the next year or two at 13 and 14. And they got to understand the long game, as we understand, and try to develop this young man, not only to be a great baseball player, but to be a great man and teach them life lessons along the way, as you did with your kids before you got back into it. So I try to tell them, like, at this age, we're just trying to do the right things and develop them as a baseball player. Like, try not to get overzealous and think about what you want through them, and just let them play the game and be pure about it. And whatever happens, happens. You will find out if your son is talented as it goes. I'm not going to be the one to tell them. People around the game will be coming to watch them play, and then you'll know what you need to do. But to have preemptive surgery, to think that when I get to 17 or 18, I'm going to throw X miles an hour or 10 miles an hour harder and be 95 to 97 and get drafted out of high school. It's just not realistic.
No. And the other thing I like to tell parents, have a plan B. For me, washing out in 5.5 years, never getting out of A ball, I didn't have a plan B. Baseball was planned. That was it. And then to come back and have to rearrange everything and go, well, maybe education is important. You don't have Tommy John in your education. You either have one or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to trade school, you either have a trade or you don't. Whatever it is you choose is not Tommy John surgery in real life. And prepare your kid to prepare him properly. We've always got a next plan. This is a great plan, son, daughter. What's next? Where are we going? What avenues are we going to take? And I think we get lost on that. And I think a lot of that are the parents' dreams of, my son wants to be a ball player, so he's going to be a ball player. And that's the end of it. And then the kid gets to 15 and he's either tired of it or he's hurt. Because I don't want to play baseball anymore. And it crushes the parents more than it does the kid. There's a whole bunch of mixed messages in there with parents and kids. And I love the people who would come up to me and go, I spend $9,000 each summer on my kid. He's going to the big leagues. Yeah. Okay. And the next part of that, you'll get this because you're a baseball player. If a kid's talented enough, he's going to get seen.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if you live in Podunkville or you live in a metroplex. That kid will be seen. You don't have to sit there and push your kid to every single tournament. And I coached some kids in 1999 and 2000, and in Florida, so a kid's 170th, 175th game. And I'm like, how many games have you played this summer?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're on fumes, man. And so now you have kids that are stronger and faster, and their hand-eye coordination is better. Absolutely, because of the training they incur. But there are kids I've coached who have a dietitian, a stretching coach, a lifting coach, a throwing coach, a hitting coach, and everything else you can throw under the sun. We don't need all that, because people can look at your kid and go, that kid's got talent. We need to give him a shot. Or that kid could swing 700 times a day. He's still never going to be ready. And I hate to say that to anybody, but sometimes honesty is the best policy, where you go, plan B. It's the kid's dream, not the parents. And as long as the kid's passion and love is in that way, you cheer for them. Do not push them.
I mean, Jim, you sitting here, Steve sitting here, the two of you are such minute, examples of the kids that end up living that dream to even get a sniff to be one day in the major leagues. Like Steve always brings up the example of the odds of making the majors. Well, Steve, what did you say as far as the numbers go in making it actually to the majors for a kid?
Yeah, so you just take an average major league stadium, and we'll call it 40,000 seat stadium, whether it's Arlington or Tampa or Cleveland or whatever it is. We'll call it 40,000. If you fill that stadium at half capacity, that's how many people have ever made it to the big leagues. 20,000 and some change. That is, in 150 plus years of Major League Baseball, that's how many people have stepped on a Major League Baseball diamond and played at least one game in the big leagues. That's not a lot of people with the population that is out there.
And when you raised in the book that example about getting drafted by the Brewers, seeing 100+ kids out there and thinking, wow, you know, I got a shot here, not knowing that those were just the pitchers alone. I think about that kid that, let's say, Toledo, Ohio. You're the most talented kid in Toledo, Ohio, and you're like, wow, I'm guaranteed to make the majors. Think how many kids are in Texas, in California, in Florida that are playing year round that are just as good or better than you. Now, you know, World Baseball Classics coming up this year. Think about Dominican, Cuba, Venezuela. These kids have nothing, and their families have nothing but the hopes and dreams that this kid is going to make the majors one day. You have a worldwide based talent. I mean, compared to the 80s and 90s where we are today, it's such a global sport that the odds are getting less and less of ever getting a sniff, let alone getting drafted, let alone making it to the minors. It's unbelievable. So kudos to both of you to beating those odds. Now I
Well,
gotta
thank
ask
you.
you because I know Steve's gonna slap me on the back of the head after the episode, but when I'm reading about Jim, the arms barking and everything else, I think to myself, Jim, there's a simple solution here. Just learn the knuckleball. And Steve's always shaking his head at me. No, no, no. But have you ever attempted it? And why has there never been a left-handed knuckleballer, as far as I know, in the major leagues?
Basically, because left-handers can roll the ball up there and they don't have to throw a knuckleball. All you got to do is be left-handed, have a little bit of movement. And see, when you throw a knuckleball and you teach your kid to throw a knuckleball, if they got a great fastball, that fastball is going to go bye-bye. It reworks the muscle in the arm and the shoulder. And so now we're working not with the white muscle tissue, but the red. And so they get slower and thicker and stiffer. But as long as you're doing stuff like a sprinter, you're not going to have a sprinter run 25 miles. We're going to do sprints. That's how you get strong as a sprinter. Baseball, you need to pitch. You need to pitch, you get better, hopefully. Doesn't work the other way around. You can't go, I'm going to throw a knuckleball and I'm going to be good at it, because then you're not going to have a fastball.
So both of you as coaches, if a young kid came to you and said, hey, teach me, I want to learn how to be a knuckleballer, you'd slap that ball out of their hands at that point?
I teach them how to throw a knuckle curve when they're 15. When they're 12, no.
Their hands aren't even big enough yet, and they don't even know how to grip a ball yet at 12, 13, 14 to even learn a knuckleball. I mean, once you get into, especially right-handers, if you don't have the velocity and you don't have a special pitch like a changeup or a wipeout breaking ball that you can throw, and the knuckleball is your only option, maybe you go to that. But again, it's not easy. You have to find somebody who's specialized in that to help teach you how to throw it, whether it be like a Tim Wakefield, an R.A. Dickey, those type of guys. And there's just not very many of them around that can teach it. Like if somebody wanted to learn a knuckleball from me, I couldn't teach it. And I would be the first one to tell you that. Like I know how to grip it, but I don't know the mechanics of how to use your fingers and all of that, just because I've never been taught and I've never thrown one. So that becomes a more specialized thing. And that's why I think you don't see very many knuckleballers, because there's not very many guys out there who can actually teach it and be successful at the major league level.
Well, it being a small,
I agree.
it being a small fraternity, you know, Steve's wearing the Brewers hat, not just because you got drafted by Milwaukee, but Steve was coaching out in Milwaukee, the bullpen coach there before leaving the game to spend more time with his son and family. Jim getting drafted by the Yankees, Steve playing on the Yankees. So it's amazing, you start to get these parallels. And is this the first time you two have met? Never met before, ever in circles?
That's correct.
Not that I.
It just works out that way. I was thinking, maybe somehow they met up in the Mexican League somewhere or in Venezuela in winter ball. Never happened. This is the first
But I
time.
did tell you that I did tell you this story. I was in Texas in Arlington when they were shooting the movie, and I was sitting in the bullpen. We were playing the Texas Rangers, and in the middle of the seventh inning, they had to have him run out of the bullpen to the crowd that was cheering, and we paused the game for them to shoot that scene in the movie.
And it's funny you say that, because Dennis is standing. Well, I mean, two things happened that night. He goes, "What happens if I trip?" And I said, "Then it's a comedy." The second thing was he played catch with the Rangers pitchers for like 8 innings. And I'm like, dude, you will not be able to wipe tomorrow. And he comes out the next day, he's got Tylenol on his elbow and he's holding his, I'm like, I told you, you can't do that. You play golf, you do not throw. And he learned.
So then I gotta ask, my first reaction when I heard about the movie, how did Kevin Costner not get this role? I mean, the man has, the barrel set on every single baseball movie pretty much known to man. He must have tried out. Any idea how far Kevin got into the process?
Not very far, because I had Roberto Hernandez and Jose Canseco and Ozzie Guillen go, if you let him do another baseball movie, we're coming after you. Let somebody else do it. And so that was their claim, that's why he didn't get it. I don't know why he didn't get it. There were so many people that were up for that part that I was shocked. I'm like, who wants to play an old dude who goes back out and plays baseball? I still wasn't catching on to how big it could be. And I met Dennis. Dennis really wanted the part. And I will say this, after we won the ESPY award, they were sending him to one party, they were sending my wife and I to another one. And he calls me back over to him after we did all our pictures, and he hugs me. He goes, I just want you to know, you've turned my career around. That's probably the best compliment I got. And it was awesome. I know that Jim Caviezel wanted the part too. I met him and his wife on a plane in New York, and he blew us both up on the plane. He goes, I almost got to play you. I'm like, dude, no. And I looked at him, I go, dude, you're way too pretty to play me. And he laughed, and 2 years later he played Jesus, and I thought, you're gonna have somebody play you. But very nice people. I got to meet a lot of great people, man. It was incredible. The journey was awesome. And it's just like anything else, whether you're in baseball or anything else, there are really, really, really good people. It's the few bad ones that make the most noise and cause the most trouble. And I've been blessed with meeting a lot of very good people, including today.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think Dennis did a great job, honestly. Obviously, the movie is a runaway hit. And, again, I pictured Kevin Costner just because I've seen so many baseball movies I was enthralled with for the love of the game, and for any baseball fan out there to watch The Rookie, watch for the love of the game. It's amazing. The idea of the pitcher's mindset as he's pitching his final game was fantastic, and that's where I love the combination of Hollywood meets baseball meets life. And, you're continuing that today where you're at, Jim, as far as motivating people through your books, through the movie, motivational speaking. I gotta ask you, talking about, the allure of the game and making it to where you did, thinking that it would never happen. Does the game ever come back calling for you? Because obviously you've forgotten more about baseball than a lot of people will ever know. Why are you not a pitching coach somewhere, bullpen coach, a bench coach? Did that ever drive you? Where did you pick your life journey now? And you ever get that inkling to get back into the game?
No. And there may be a small part of me that wants to, but being on the road for that long, every single year, I got grandkids now, man. I don't want to miss any of this journey. And the reason, one of the biggest two reasons that I quit the first time was because my kids were little and I wanted to watch them grow up. So to be a coach somewhere, baseball has been my passion and my love forever. Had a lot of opportunities in Major League Baseball and college, along with high school offers when I spoke in the schools. And I appreciate the offer, and it's awesome. But right now, at this point in my life, my family is number one, and I want to watch them grow up and chase their dreams. And I want to watch my grandkids grow up and see what kind of world they're in.
So I gotta ask you, as a footnote to that, are you an active watcher of today's game? Do you follow particular players, particular teams? Are you an avid fan of Major League Baseball? Have you been keeping up with the sport, or have you moved forward to other parts? Because you're a very busy guy. I mean, you're on the road all the time doing your speaking engagements. So do you have time to keep up getting into Major League stadiums? How much of a fan are you of today's game?
I'm a fan of how athletic kids are now. And holy cow, man, there's just a different level that these young people are on than we were. And Asa Lacy, a number 4 draft pick for Kansas City Royals in 2020. I watched that kid from the time he was 14. That's one of the few kids that I've coached. And the reason why was the parents made a bargain with me. I said, you will never say anything that his high school coach or I do not say during a game. Do not get all these different philosophies going through his head because daddy's saying it. Now I got to listen to daddy. I got to listen to coach. I got to listen to my other coach. No. And he was 5'9". He threw good, and you could tell from his work ethic, if he stayed healthy, he was going to be awesome. And then he goes to A&M and tears it up. And now he's toiling in the minors. And then it becomes a head game. You've got the talent, you've got the stuff to be there. But he went from throwing in the low 80s to throwing 98 at A&M. And now I think his shoe size is like 15 or 16, and he's 6'5". And you're like, where do these kids grow now? But I don't want to miss anything I've got going on in front of me. And yeah, we travel a lot and I speak a lot. And it took me a long time to come to the realization how important family is.
So to that viewer that's watching today, as we sum up today's episode, that's watching and hearing your story, Jim Morris, and the path you took, and now they're reflecting on themselves and thinking, where am I going to go in life? If you can give a piece of advice to that youngster today, trying to figure out their life journey and where they're at and mistakes they may have made and, uncertain futures, what advice can you give that young person today?
Find your passion, chase it, pursue it all you want to, but always have a plan B. Because the thing you start chasing may not be the thing you end up loving the most. And my grandfather taught me that a long time ago. And little did I know when I walked out of baseball the first time that coaching would be my next calling. And then parenting would be. And I will tell you this, I fought tooth and nail not to speak. And my agent goes, you're going to be a speaker. And I go, you are out of your mind. That's why I write on the chalkboard so I don't have to talk to the kids face to face. And now I've been speaking for 22 years. And we never know where life's going to take us. And everybody's got different talents, but that's what makes us as well-rounded as we are. Because while you might be a great lawyer and Steve was a great baseball player, what's the next step? You don't want to wake up one day and go, what if? And I didn't want to do that, especially after I taught those kids to go chase your dream. I didn't want to wake up one day at my age now and go, what if I'd have tried? What would have happened? What could have possibly been worse than the first time around? And I've learned who I am, and I'm grown up now. I know how important family is. I know how important keeping my word is. But more than that, I know my body. Let's go do this and see where it goes. At the very least, it doesn't work, and you go back to school and you're coaching and teaching football.
I think the three of us could go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you can read the book, you can watch the movie, but when you hear Jim talk and how powerful and inspirational it is for him to understand and the roads he has taken to get to the point he is today, it just puts a lot of things into perspective. You don't think about these things when you're younger and you're trying to chase a dream, and you don't say, what is plan B? What am I going to do? Because there's a short lifespan in any sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey. You can only have earning potential to a certain point. There's not everybody that can make life-changing money. There's people who play the game, but you always have to look ahead. And just to listen here and be in awe and listen to Jim's story, spoken in the words by him. Like I said, it's very powerful, inspirational. I've learned a lot. And, it's just been really enjoyable to have you on and listen to you speak the words of truth and where your journey has taken you and how you've gotten to the point of where you're at now. So I really appreciate it. And it's been a really good episode for me to reflect and understand, because it took me a while to understand the family portion of it. I played for very many years. I also coached for 11 or 12 years. My son got to a point where we were in the car and he told me the one day, he's like, Dad, you're leaving again. And when he said that going to school, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, he knows now. I'm leaving again, and it's for a long period of time, as you said, when you travel and you're away from home for a long time. I went through the 2020 COVID year, which was extremely tough, not being able to see your family because of the rules and restrictions that the Major League Baseball had put on families and players and coaches. So I understood that. And when my son expressed that and we had a deeper conversation at the age of 11, I knew it was time for me to make that call and to step away and to be the father and to watch my boy grow up and and chase his passion of baseball, but other things as well, and watch him grow from a toddler, to a preteen, to a teen, and then obviously he'll be a young man at some point here in the future, and it'll be nice to watch him grow into what he is going to become. So again, to listen to you and to see the roads that you have taken have inspired me to be a better parent, to be a better dad, and to be a better family man. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's a great compliment. I can't help but notice over your right shoulder, Smoltz jersey. And in 2000, he's throwing knuckleballs in spring training, and nobody for the life of us can figure it out. And then he has surgery and he comes back throwing 100 and 102. That doesn't happen every day, not at that age. And then all of a sudden, boom, even better than you were to begin with. Very rare. But it was a lot of fun watching all those people play. And a lot of times we miss a message or two along the way because we're men and we're not that smart to begin with. But you heard your son at the right time. It was the right time for him to hear dad go, And that's going to mean a lot to him later on.
And I would challenge the three of us today as we're finishing off today's episode. When you reflect tonight, my therapist always tells me it's good to put a gratitude list together, but let's do something a little different. We could sit down now and let's say in the year 2033, where we think our lives are going to be at, make that notes of where we project ourselves and go back and look at that list 10 years later. We're going to laugh because whatever we think life is going to be today, it ain't, I guarantee you. And I tell the viewers the same thing. Write down what you think your life is going to be 10 years from now. Keep that list somewhere safe. Check it out in 10 years from now. Because the one thing I tell you from dream makers that I learned very vividly is get ready to roll with the punches, and life is going to swerve you all the time, and you can plan as much as you think, and it's going to keep changing on you at a moment's notice. So Jim Morris, thank you for spreading goodness in this earth, positivity, motivating people, sharing your story, so deep, especially where it hurts, and still being able to share that and telling people, hey, I can relate, you can relate, and you know what? Life is going to be good. And thank you for spreading everything that you do, my friend. It's been an honor having you on the Chosen Journey.
Been an honor being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, everyone.